Need to put that one on the Tucker screen caps.
The undefeated Kansas City Chiefs taking care of business against the San Francisco 49ers, but it comes at a cost. Let's talk about it.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Welcome into another live edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank. Member FDIC, our tremendous partners in possible here at KC Sports Network. So grateful for them, all they do here in the KC community. And for KC Sports Network, we are appreciative of them. I'm appreciative of my beautiful friend, Matthew Lane. Matthew, hi.
Hi, kid. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm flustered now. I'm blushing. There's two Monday night games going on right now, so we appreciate everybody hopping in here to come hang out with us. We're going to talk a little bit about the the only undefeated team in the entire NFL. I don't know. I guess that's something we should talk about, Kent.
Probably should. I tell you what, it feels good to be the only undefeated team in the National Football League, and like I'm kind of enjoying this right now. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, I'm very much enjoying, like, I know that the wins aren't the prettiest all the time. I'm enjoying this. I'm enjoying winning all these football games, these not resulting in losses. This team continuing to find ways to win games and frustrate the National Football League. People are just very upset that the Kansas City Chiefs are sitting here 6-0 after winning the last two Super Bowls, pursuing a three-peat. Things keep going their way in the wins, department. A lot of good things happening. I don't know. I know, like, there's little gripes here about this team, like every single team in the National Football League has, and I am enjoying the heck out of winning a lot of football games.
I mean, yeah, obviously the winning of football games is fantastic. It's a good feeling. And I think I kind of said, like, one of my biggest takeaways from that 49ers game, and it's been this way all year, but the Chiefs are the one team in the NFL that you're just kind of like, they're going to win. However the game plays out, this team is going to win. And like, maybe we haven't seen them this year have to get into a shootout and technically go outscore the opponent at a high amount, but we've seen them win in all these various different ways. We've seen this team adapt over the years to what they need to be. And like, at the end of the day, there's only one team in the NFL that's not only undefeated, there's only one team that has Patrick Mahomes, and like that's the Chiefs. So yeah, it's fun. It's a little bit difficult, as you said, sometimes to completely live in the moment because parts of it, especially on the offensive side, do look a little ugly at times compared to what we are used to as Chiefs fans. But the defense has been great. The defense has been outstanding. The Chiefs continue to find ways to figure out how to win football games. Patrick Mahomes still does the Patrick Mahomes thing. Like, there's a lot to like and very little to, be mildly upset with.
Yep, and I think it's just good to add some of that because I do think it just the tenor just seems like, and maybe it's because of last year, but like the tenor just seems a little different, and I feel like we should be appreciating these wins even though they're ugly and stylistically a lot different than we've seen from this team historically in the Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes era. I don't care. I'm enjoying watching it. I'm enjoying winning these football games. It does feel like a lot of these wins recently have come at a cost. And again, this game comes at a cost as well. The Chiefs are going to be without Jalen Watson for an extended period of time and potentially for the entirety of the season. Jalen Watson breaks his ankle in this game against the San Francisco 49ers. And it's a shame because Jalen Watson was putting together a fantastic season, Matthew.
No, he was. Tucker and I had talked about it recently. And like, the big thing here was like Jalen Watson statistically had been the Chiefs' best cover corner this year. Obviously, Trent McDuffie's drawing the harder assignments, and I think he's still like been a better player. But Jalen Watson statistically had been the best corner. He's been targeted 28 times, only given up 15 receptions, not really giving up any yards after the catch on those plays. He's forcing incompletions at a pretty high rate. Like, he had been fantastic across from Trent McDuffie. I mean, in fact, you could make an argument that he was playing just as good as L'Jarius Sneed was last year. Again, slightly different roles because of what they're asked to do, but you could make the argument that he made that transition from what Sneed was last year to what Watson had been this year negligible. I mean, you didn't even feel it when you're watching this defense. It didn't matter at all. Even if the slot defensive back play has maybe dipped a little bit this year, you didn't feel any of like the qualms, like because of Jalen Watson, how well he played. So this is rough. This is this is going to be a hard one to stomach, I think, for the Chiefs moving forward. He had tweeted out, I think, the heartbroke emoji on the old X app earlier. So I don't know, don't want to say that for sure means that he's out for the rest of the year or anything like that. But I would say it's not a good sign. And it at least looks like he's probably going to miss the remainder of the regular season. Maybe there's a slim chance he could come back in the playoffs or something like that. We won't really know until they do more stuff, but he's going to be out for a while. And like other guys are now going to have to step up. But that's brutal because he's been playing fantastic.
Yeah, he really has. And, one of the big questions that was coming into the season is who's going to step up. And it really just didn't look like heading into the preseason and, just some of the stuff you saw. It didn't feel like the Chiefs had great answers at the cornerback position. There was a lot of legitimate concern that, they weren't going to be able to, keep up the same kind of pace and play that they, produced over last season. And they did. And a huge piece of that to this point has been, Jalen Watson. So, I think there's been a lot of concern with what you've seen behind Jalen Watson. And I think it's justifiably so. Like, Najee Johnson's, got some limitations here. He's been a little up and down. And like, this is kind of really like essentially his first sample size of the NFL. But he seems to be the guy that's going to be stepping in to replace what Jalen Watson has brought to this team.
For sure. I think that's, I don't even want to say for sure yet, actually. I'm gonna hesitate to say for sure because we've seen in the past Joshua Williams has gotten some run at that outside corner spot. Even early in the season, Joshua Williams was getting, a little bit of run out there in the early games. Now, he's been almost entirely phased out up to this point, but if I'm trying to put myself kind of in the mindset of Spags and how this defense runs, Trent McDuffie's kind of tracking with the number one wide receiver or whatever matchup they want. They kind of seem to like Watson, and who's, again, I want to say been very, very good, but he's the guy that gets to go be physical. He just gets to go beat up whatever outside wide receiver he's playing against. A lot of times there's going to be, I don't want to say extra, but there's going to be some safeties rolled to his side or whatever the matchup is. They just feel pretty good about him being physical at the line of scrimmage, and they're not too worried about him getting beat over the top, whether there's help or they're not afraid of the matchup. So can that be Najee Johnson? Absolutely. It's possible. It's that. But if the goal is to just be physical at the line of scrimmage and beat somebody up, that's something that Joshua Williams has already done for this team. Do they fall back into that familiar territory and say, maybe we thought Najee Johnson was a better overall corner at this point going up to, that's why he's playing, but Joshua Williams allows us to do essentially the same thing we've been doing with Watson. He can go out there and press whoever's lined up across from him and do so and never be physically overmatched. He understands how to do that, how we want that played. I just wonder if there's a slim chance that Joshua Williams gets back into the rotation based on the fact that they need that like full-time outside corner now.
I think that's a good thought. Definitely, just because you're right. Like your like for him would definitely wind up being, Joshua Williams, very similar in frame, size, play style. So like there is a like for like there. I'm trying to look. Joshua Williams played 12 snaps last game here against the San Francisco 49ers. So that snap count you would expect to see an uptick there. Jalen Watson played 59% at 37. And Najee Johnson got 21 snaps, 33% of the snaps in that game.
Najee had definitely taken over all of those roles, but I'm trying to look now. He had played, a lot. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, I guess, to see how they kind of figure it out. I'm kind of looking through here. According to PFF, Najee Johnson hadn't been playing in the slot too often, but I don't know. It feels like he'd been playing in the slot a little bit more than what they put on there. It's just going to be curious to see how it plays out between the two. Because I think we kind of saw on that double move, and it's one play, so you don't want to dig down too much into it, but it felt like Najee Johnson thought that he was going to get extra help over the top. And I don't think that was ever realistic given the coverage and the route distribution they were seeing. So he just didn't carry Jacob Cowing vertical whatsoever. And then after the play, he kind of looked over like, hey, where's my help? And it's just one of those things that's a learning moment where you have to know you're not going to have help there in that situation. And I'm not saying Joshua Williams doesn't have mental blunders like that too. I think that's a big part of why Watson always had the upper hand. It's just if he's going to be more familiar with that, I do wonder if you see Joshua Williams, getting through there.
I think it makes some sense. It definitely makes some sense. And Joshua Williams has played more high leverage snaps for this football team than Najee Johnson has at this point too. So I do think, you're probably getting him back in the mix in some capacity as well. It'll be fascinating to see who overtakes that spot in if it's just a mixture, who gets the lion's share, what they do. I think it's going to be interesting to watch there. But it's a bummer for Jalen Watson. Really enjoyed watching him play this year. Hopefully they get him back at some point, but it doesn't seem overly optimistic from all fronts that the Chiefs are going to be getting a cornerback who's playing great football back. And it's a shame for him too, because you hope he doesn't get off to a slow start during a contract year for him. It's going to be a big year for Jalen Watson next season in his contract season with the Kansas City Chiefs. The rest of the defense, though, I think, hey, look, man, they continue to do good things. They continue to be one of the best defenses in the National Football League, despite losing L'Jarius Sneed. They've put together a fantastic season. Steve Spagnuolo was absolutely feeling it last night, and as well as this entire defense is playing really good football.
Yeah, I mean, they just continue to churn out fantastic like defensive performances. And I always feel a little bad talking about them because I don't want to say like a lot to say about them. It's just like I feel like when we talk offense, we kind of get a little bit deeper into like, oh, hey, this is like this, like the why this might be happening. This is what's going on here a little bit behind the scenes. Defensively, they just play assignment sound football across the board. And like, not that there's not good players making good plays. I want to be very clear about that. We're going to talk about some, but like they just play assignment sound football over and over again. Yeah, Steve Spagnuolo's blitz packages have been fantastic, but I don't think that he's blitzing at an absurd rate. He's not going full like Brian Flores, where he's just sitting the house or showing sitting the house and dropping everybody. Like they're just playing a sound defensive structure. They throw out great pressure packages at the right times. Their defensive line is being gap sound in the run game. Their coverage unit on the back end is doing a great job passing off routes, understanding their assignments versus almost everything. Like they are quite literally just playing perfect technical football. And that almost makes it, I don't want to say not fun, but it almost makes it a little bit difficult to talk about and just like point out where things are going so well.
Well, I think, yeah, and I do agree with you. I think it's not like it's, like they're just, you're right. It's sound football. I think one thing I appreciate from them, though, is they are doing a fantastic job with the early downs and putting themselves in advantageous situations to let Steve Spagnuolo get into his bag. And so I think winning early downs has been a key factor in that. And then they're able to get creative. And I mean, they're getting creative second down, third down. If they're getting into these second and long situations, they're willing to get a little goofy. They're willing to put Felix Anudike-Uzomah at the nose tackle position on early downs, even. Like, it's just, they're mixing things up. And like I think the coverage has been exceptional. Like, I think the back end of this, the back seven, I think has done just a tremendous job. And it's been both ways, right? It's been against the run in the past. Like, I think the linebackers have done a good job, filling in the run game. I know there's one linebacker in particular I'm sure you're going to be talking about here, but like, I think they've done a fantastic job in that back seven where, they've got a lot of experience. They've got a lot of comfortability. There's a lot of chemistry in that secondary because a lot of these guys have played a lot of snaps together. A good chunk of them came into the league together back there. And Justin Reed's been there for a long time. This is his third year now. So like, there's just so much comfortability and confidence that, Steve Spagnuolo can make a bunch of calls with that back seven. It's hard to, I know like, we had questions about the talent, but the chemistry and the assignment sound nature and what they're doing and mixing things up and what Spags is doing and feeling comfortable calling on any given down, I think is a key factor in why this defense has been doing what they're doing.
And Wyoder has a great point there. Like, they're still going to get Charles Omenihu back at some point in time this year, we assume. Mike Dana will most likely, I guess, be back at some point in time this year. And all of a sudden now you have a defensive front that has multiple years working together to go along with the linebackers that have multiple years in the secondary. Like, there's so much continuity on this defensive side of the ball that I think even losing L'Jarius Sneed maybe was slightly overhyped. Now we'll see what happens now without Watson. Like, maybe eventually you have enough talent leak that it becomes an issue, but if not, like they are on the same page so well. They understand what they are doing with their defensive coordinator so well, like even to the point where the defensive line, like they're moving guys all up and down the defensive line now. Like, we saw some reps with Felix was lined up over the center, probably some of his best reps, like as a pass rusher in his NFL career so far, was just getting one-on-ones at the center. And you constantly have Chris Jones chasing matchups that he wants. But then this week they left George Karlaftis over the right tackle, Colton McKivitz. They didn't even like really give Chris that matchup, which was clearly the weakest of the 49ers. But they said, no, we're going to let George kind of feast over there off that side. And it paid off and big dividends in some big moments. Like, every lever they're hitting right now seems to be perfectly in tune with one another.
Yeah, and it's a joy to watch, and hopefully, they get Charles Omenihu back for the home stretch, and who knows what happens with Jalen Watson. There's a lot of things to be excited about with the defensive side of the ball. I know there was a couple plays, like I know you wanted to shout some players out.
Oh yeah.
I'll start though. I do want to shout out
Okay.
Felix Anudike-Uzomah because I thought he had a really good game. And I'll tell you what, man, the difference between the preseason and now, I think watching him play, he's playing with more physicality than you saw in the preseason. Like that is showing up. He's playing with like his play strength looks better. I actually think he looks a little bit bigger now than he did in the preseason. Even like it almost looks like he's put a little bit on even during the season. I know it's crazy to say, but he looks good. And I think he's done a good job, holding his gap. I think, he's played with more physicality there. I like what they did this last week to kind of move him around a little bit. He did create some inside pressure, winning off the snap. And he drew a couple double teams sometimes too from there. I know that's the spot you're going to, very often, collect a double team. But I thought he did a really good job in this game. And, I think he did some good things run in, pass. And, I grain of salt, obviously, but I think PFF gave him like the highest, pass rush grade for the Chiefs in this game. Again, grain of salt. I saw that face, Matthew, and I agree.
Yeah, that's fine.
But no, I thought I thought the tape aligned to a degree with some of that. I thought he did some good things.
I mean, I think it was definitely his best game. And like, I'm with you. Like some of his rushes over the center, I think he had like 4 of them. And the first 2 of them, like he got pretty quick pressure or pocket disruption on them. And then like the last 2, it seemed like the 49ers kind of figured out like they were just ready for it a little bit more. But like the fact that you can shift into that package and you get this one-on-one with a guy that has really good like lateral quickness, a guy that's very explosive, like you can get that mismatch almost anytime you want with Chris Jones, with the way Tershawn Wharton's playing. It's like, I like that being an option. And like, it's something that's I'm intrigued to see if they continue to do going forward. And it's Trent Williams, like grain of salt. I didn't think the outside rushes were really giving you a lot. And like, so I like that they found a way to get him like using the pass rush. Like you're not getting a lot as an exterior rusher or on the outside, put him in the middle and let him go to town there. I think the first play of the game, he kind of withstood, like he took on a double team from Trent Williams and the left guard there, Banks, and like held them up. And while Leo Chenal did his things, like it was a good performance from Felix. And I want to talk about a guy, and you said it earlier, the Chiefs are doing a really good job on first down. And like, I agree. And part of that's because teams try to get you, especially Steve Spagnuolo and base personnel and first downs. That's where you have traditionally gotten Steve Spagnuolo's defenses, keeping them in base, and the whole NFL, keeping them in base with all these extra linebackers, heavier guys on the field, and you take advantage. Well, I'm about to just lob out some of the most irresponsible out-of-pocket takes I've ever had about Leo Chenal. They're coming right now. The craziest stuff. I've long said there's exactly one linebacker in the NFL that matters for the game. One, Fred Warner for the 49ers. The only linebacker that matters. Everybody else can be good or great, but none of them matter. Just Fred Warner. In the exact right game script, Leo Chenal might be the only other linebacker that matters in the NFL. Again, game script specific, but when you have a game that's going to be run heavy, out of heavy personnel, and Leo Chenal has to be on the field because of what the offense is trying to do, I don't think there's a single linebacker in the NFL that changes the game as much as he does right now. The way that he can come downhill, attack offensive linemen, attack pulling fullbacks, tight ends, whoever, and not just like win, but completely blow up run plays on the regular is otherworldly. Like you think of what matters meaning for a linebacker. You get up to the line of scrimmage, you have to find him. You have to ID him. Not like, oh, that's the mic for the play. No, you have to find a specific player to know where he is so you can figure out what to do. If you don't figure out that Leo Chenal is playing as an overhang or he's playing in the B gap, your play's probably not going to work. You have to know where he is to know how to block him because he's been that good versus the run. Okay, that's step 1. Step 2, do you execute it perfectly? Like, do you have the proper execution to take him? If your offensive lineman's on his heels a little bit, if your puller's a millisecond late, if your guard lingers a little too long on his combo block, guess what? There's zero chance he's going to make it to Leo Chenal and stop the play. And then step 3, even when you do block it up perfectly, you're not going to win every time. Like that's the definition of matters. And I think it's a very, not narrow, it's a pretty narrow scope. It has to be run heavy. Very specifically, I think it's outside zone, the power, stuff like that. When somebody has to pull across the formation, when he gets to come downhill and attack guys, that's where it is. But man, like it's really hard to find examples of Leo Chenal not absolutely blowing up run plays numerous times in a game when they try to play that way.
Well, and Wyoder said it. Name another linebacker that has bodied Trent Williams like Leo did Sunday on that outside run play. And like, here's the thing, like with Leo Chenal, I think he was one of my favorite linebackers coming out. I think we put like a 2nd round grade on him when he was coming out of the draft in the year that he did. Like we were very big Leo Chenal fans. It's because he's a unique but very good football player. And he's got unique strength for the position. I think he's kind of got a unique build for the position, especially like in modern football. Like this is not the kind of linebacker you typically see. But I mean, you saw what his relative athletic score is, one of the best in football. I I gotta find it again. But like you're talking about just like a freakishly big linebacker or a big linebacker with elite athletic testing that kind of surprised some people. And I think to a large degree is 9.99 relative athletic score. He did it at 6'3", 250 pounds. He benched 34 times, had a vertical of 40 and a half freaking inches, 4.5340. I mean, he was a freak athlete. He's a big football player. And it is the play strength that he has. He pound for pound might be one of the strongest players in the National Football League. Like it's at this point, you're watching what he's doing, and you're watching him, like I said, take on Trent Williams, as Wyoder said. But how many times has he walked a guard back and just disrupted a play? Like he does very like what he specifically does at the linebacker position. There is nobody in the National Football League better than him. He is, I think, the best. I don't even know what to call him. Utility linebacker that can kind of just. I mean, he plays with the strength of an interior defensive lineman, but he moves like a linebacker, and he's the most disruptive run defender in the National Football League right now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it sounds crazy to say it because, like, I obviously don't think Leo Chenal is the second best linebacker in the entire NFL. No. But like, if I'm talking about like a guy that like a linebacker that matters, there's not very many people love Roquan Smith. I don't think there's ever really a point that I've been watching a Ravens game or even before when he was at the Bears saying like, okay, this team has to identify where Roquan Smith is before the snap. They have to make sure they have a plan to attack him. And then if they do attack it perfectly, he still might make the play. Like, I just never thought that about Roquan Smith. And he might be pretty clearly the second best linebacker in the NFL right now. I just never felt that way. But if you look, again, specifically in these games where the Chiefs go up against these teams that like to run heavy personnel, they like to run the ball, specifically doing, like I said, outside zone and like power stuff, pulling, counter power, things like that. He just absolutely wrecks what teams try to do. Like, he destroys them nonstop. You have to figure out where he's lined up. You have to account for him, not with a tight end or some pulling blocker. Like, you better get a 300+ pound body on him, and it better be on time in the right spot. And even then, he still might win the play. Like, that means he matters on those situations. It's just such a small part. And the big thing for me that really put him into the spot is this year, I think we've seen it. Leo Chenal's not the best coverage linebacker in the entire NFL, but he's gotten to the point where you can't attack him over and over again to success. You're not going to find a way to stress Leo Chenal over and over again in coverage and just have a huge game. Now, part of that's because the Chiefs hide him a little bit there, but we even saw it against the 49ers. He did a good job in some of his curl flat stuff, recognizing when the pass was coming down below, driving on it and attacking it for 0 yards after the catch. He got Kittle behind the line of scrimmage on a play like that. He got Garindo where he forced the fumble for like a little pass out into the flat. Like, he's driving on stuff to the flat. Then we saw him pick up Juszczyk and run on the wheel route. And like, maybe he didn't see the ball until it was in the hands, but he played the hands from a good position on a wheel route from a guy that's very adept at catching passes. So like, you can't attack him in the pass game over and over again. He's blowing up your run game. Like, you can't put the Chiefs in base anymore. You literally have to avoid putting the Chiefs in base because he is kind of wrecking your game plan. Like, that matters. That means it matters. And it's just funny because he is, as you said, he's not even an every down player. He's a guy that has a very specific usage, but he matters so much in that usage. That's just crazy to kind of like wrap your head around where he settles in, I guess, in like not even the NFL, but like the Chiefs hierarchy of important players right now.
Well, and the Chiefs will even try to get into like a 3-down look to keep him on the field. Like, they might just go to a 3-3 base or a 3-3 nickel if they want to try to keep him on the field a little bit more too. So I'm going to ask you this question. Is Leo Chenal the Snacks Harrison of linebackers?
I mean, kind of, yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah, that's a pretty good one. I'm going to peel back the curtain here a little bit. I told you I had a crazy take about Leo Chenal coming today, but I didn't want to tell you what it was because like I wanted it to be a little surprising, but I did tell Craig what it was. So we talked about it a little before this started. So I also said this to Craig. I said,
this wasn't your take? I thought this was the spicy take. Anyways, please continue.
That was the spicy take. That was the spicy take. I'm just saying I already had this to Craig, but this is like the final part of it. Leo Chenal is like, continuing because he's already done it, continuing to increase his like general football IQ, because like he still can be a little late to recognize play action, like he can be a little late to see stuff, and that's fine. Like he's a second-year player right now, no big deal. He's a little bit better on his IQ and his anticipation from being like 95% of Deontay Hightower. Like, he is like the one linebacker since Deontay Hightower's come to the NFL that kind of plays that same way, and you can kind of use the same way. Hightower was never like great in coverage, but what he did was he bopped you at the line of scrimmage, then he went and played a passing lane or he blitzed. Like that's what he did his entire career. And he was great at it. And what he did in the run game was phenomenal. Now, I don't know if Hightower was an extremely, extremely smart football player. I don't feel comfortable predicting Leo Chenal gets to that levels, but if he just gets to a good level in terms of anticipation, reading out defense, the way he plays, how he attacks offensive linemen and changes the numbers in run games because he's never at a disadvantage against any offensive lineman, it's very Hightower-ish. So like there's a 90 to 95% Deontay Hightower in there somewhere, and like that's really exciting.
I like that one a lot, Maddie. I do like that one a lot. I don't know, like, yeah, Hightower did have just ridiculous football instincts, maybe a little bit looser hip too, but like there's tons of crossover other than that. So like I'm a fan of that take. Dante Hightower, he stood at the 50-yard line of the Chiefs at Arrowhead for the coin toss. And I'm going to let all you Chiefs fans know you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the Chiefs coin toss at a home game this season. Visit chiefs.com/GEHA now. You can enter to win a chance to be on the field for the march to the three-peat. Still plenty of home games left, so there's some opportunities there for you. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you are taking advantage of that opportunity. We're going to take a break, and we will be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNLab. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Thanks, everyone, hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate your support of KC Sports Network. Continuing to celebrate on a Victory Monday, the Kansas City Chiefs, the only undefeated team in the National Football League.
Ooh.
Feels
you
good,
know what else
man.
they are?
What?
You know what else the Chiefs are? Back-to-back defending world champions, Kent.
Very good point. Very good point, Matthew. Pursuit of the three-peat, as we were just mentioning with this team and GEHA. So yes, it's been a fun couple years here. Hopefully they can continue that up. And look, there's a lot of components of this team. We just got done talking about the defensive side of the ball. It's time to talk a little about the offensive side of the ball and what we're seeing in the performance there. And I think it's time to give the O-line a look here, Matthew. What was your take on the Chiefs' offensive line, specifically against the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, I think to start the game, it was less than ideal. It wasn't terrible, I don't think. Like, Nick Bosa is always going to give problems to anybody he goes up against. And I think the Chiefs, especially having 2 tackles, but specifically their left tackle, Wanya Morris, is not struggling because I think he feels as confident or as capable as he's going to, but like he's just not ready to block Nick Bosa one-on-one. So I think there were some early struggles in this game, and it made Mahomes feel a little uneasy. Whether he should have or shouldn't have is an entirely different discussion that I think has to go on in the locker room, not between like us here. But somebody got after these offensive linemen. So like somebody got in their ass because like in the second, third, fourth quarter, not only do I think that like they beat the 49ers down in the run game, but like I thought the pass protection got a lot better. Like I really do. They felt like it was good. The ball was coming out quicker, but they still got some play action shots in there where they held their own. They still had plenty of opportunities where like Mahomes had to drop back. They gave him space in the pocket to actually move up and not just scramble backwards, which I thought was big. So like, yeah, I don't know what the conversation was. I don't know what the entire adjustments were. I do have some, ideas here in a second, but like, I just thought that whatever the switch that flipped somewhere in the early to middle part of that second quarter, I really think, did a great job for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a little bit tough early. And I think that's, been a trend that we've noticed here a few times this season. And in some inconsistencies that might have made Patrick Mahomes a little bit more uncomfortable. I think you saw Wanya Morris have, a really rough rep early on in the game against Nick Bosa. Got it right for the first time in my life there. And, he completely missed he didn't even get a punch off against Nick Bosa, and he turned the corner and really created havoc on that play. But after that, you really didn't hear from Wanya Morris all that much. I think after that, Wanya had a pretty good performance. He did a pretty good job there. So I think the offensive line definitely was looking better. And I do think, yes, like they were playing a little bit more quick game. And I think they had to manufacture their protection a little bit more with some play action with, I don't know how much they really moved the pocket, but they gave a little bit more help to Wanya as the game went on. But after that, like things really did start to look better. And I think Mahomes started to play a little bit better as a result of it.
Yeah. And like, I think that big part is like, Wanya Morris, the left tackle is clearly going to be the weakest part of this game. I think a lot of people are tired of Jawan Taylor because there's penalties and occasionally he has some like not pretty losses. But if you remove the penalties just for a second and look at all of Jawan Taylor's like pass protection reps, like they're pretty good. Like he's pretty good at not allowing pressures. He's pretty good at not allowing sacks. When they come, they are just ugly. And a lot of times they come because him and Trey Smith get on like the wrong level. And like, there's no inside help when he thinks there's going to be and stuff like that. So like, Jawan Taylor as like an actual just straight up pass protector, he's pretty good. Like he's in the upper half of NFL right tackles for sure. Probably like fringing on the top 10 of just pure pass protecting right tackles. He's actually been a better run blocker this year too, but the penalties obviously matter, but there wasn't that many in this game. So Jawan Taylor, fine. Interior played pretty well. Wanya Morris is your weak link. And I think they figured that out early. If they were going to lose this game because of the offensive line, it was going to be because on the left side, they had no answer for a Nick Bosa. They started going with a lot more chips than I think they want to do. And I don't mean like a soft chip where a running back's just running out and runs close. Like they had guys that were lined up over there that were not getting into the route immediately. They were taking a hard 1-2 count before getting out. They had running backs who were making sure they stopped, threw his shoulder, then got out to the flat. Noah Gray had a good start to this game, and you kind of didn't see him again for a while. And like you're wondering in the back of your head, hey, why aren't they getting back to him? They were having a lot of success. Well, he spent a lot of time when he was out there having to chip off that left-hand side. So did Travis Kelce, because they were just going to say, they said Nick Bosa is not going to Trey Hendricks in this game. We are going to still maintain some level of functioning offense by giving Wanya Morris more help than we as a Kansas City Chiefs offense really like to do. We want to be 5 out as much as possible. We can live with like being 4.5, which is just like, one soft or chip coming out, but like we really want to be 5 out. That's how Andy Reid schemes guys open, is getting all of that space being used. And when you start losing that, it reduces how often you can win based purely on scheme. But they kind of did the, they weighed that out and said it's worth it to throw that chip help. And I think it worked out. Obviously, we saw a more comfortable Patrick Mahomes as the game went on.
Absolutely. 100%. And I don't think Mahomes played bad. Like, I know that there's like some like commentary and stuff surrounding him and his performance in this game. I really don't think he played that bad as like people are kind of trying to like frame it. And I don't like it. I know the interceptions, like, but those weren't on him. And I don't know. He played a good game. And even if you eliminate, even in between these spectacular, amazing Patrick Mahomes level plays that he played, he was efficient. He was moving the ball. He's making the right decisions. He was getting the ball in the hands of his playmakers. I don't think there was a ton to gripe about with Mahomes' performance. And I think that's been the case recently. Like, I know it's not always the prettiest thing. And I know that there's definitely still things that they're working through. And I know there's big question marks that we're going to continue to talk about, and we will be talking about shortly to end the show. But I think if you keep Patrick Mahomes comfortable, I think good things are going to happen. And even though, like you said, there were only 5, they weren't 5 out on the route as consistently as you would like them to be, as Andy Reid would prefer, and they had to give a little bit more help to that tackle. It was the right call. It was the right move, and it gave Patrick Mahomes a chance to work a little bit more. I thought he had a great game. Like, I don't think he put the ball at risk on any single throw in this game. It wasn't like there wasn't a near pick from him in this game. There were 2 interceptions, one off the helmet of somebody. And granted, tight window, and maybe change the trajectory of that ball a little bit. I don't know. Sure. But that's very nitpicky if you're asking me. I thought he had a great performance. And I do think, the offensive line was a big factor, not just in pass protection, but when you talk about the run game again, like it's positive yards. It's continually positive yards. They're not putting themselves behind the sticks. Sometimes it's a 3-yard gain. That's okay because it's
Most of
still
the time.
most of the time it's a 2nd and 7. It is most of the time. Or specifically in this game, I think the Niners did a pretty good job of making those 2 and 3-yard games not 4 and 5-yard gains. But it still was positive yards. They weren't putting themselves behind the sticks. Penalties weren't a big issue for this offensive line. I mean, like that's a winning formula. And like that, again, it's a little bit less, it's a little bit different than what we've seen from this team. And it can be a little bit boring relative to some of the stuff that you've seen. But man, like, hey, look, they keep putting positive drives together, 3-yard game, 2 3-yard gains puts you in a 3rd and 4. That's a manageable situation with the best player on the planet. And like, I know you want more explosive plays, and the best 3rd down offense is good 1st and 2nd down offense. But I mean, they keep taking care of business in these situations. Good things will happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think pass protection wise, the offensive line was like as good as it was going to be in this game. Like you were always going to, if you don't help Nick Bosa in this particular game, it was going to wreck it. So you have to help him. So like, yeah, that's a caveat, as we did have to give a lot of help off to the left-hand side in this particular game. But outside that, like outside again, the first quarter, the first couple drives, I don't think Mahomes was having to run for his life. Anytime that he scrambled, it felt like a controlled, I kind of am scrambling to buy time or because there's a lane thing. And like, that's what you want to get to with that. Then you flip it to the run game. And yeah, once again, they were kind of dominating. They were bullying around a little bit. Like they were kind of beating up on this San Francisco front. And now Frisco, I think, did a good job of not respecting the Chiefs pass game too much, and they were driving on the runs a lot. So like a lot of those gains that could have been 4 or 5 yards, if a second or third defender didn't show up to the pile at the right time, they would have been 4, 5, 6 yard gains instead of 2, 3, 4 yard gains. And like they did a good job by driving downhill on those. I think you saw the Chiefs punish that with some of those Noah Gray plays I'm talking about earlier in the game. But then as it went on, we saw in the fourth quarter, all of a sudden those 2, 3 yard gains started becoming 4 or 5 yard gains. Like at the end of the game, body blows, the offensive linemen everywhere celebrating. The body blows really did start to show up. That final drive from the Chiefs, that was no longer 3 yards, and now Patrick Mahomes has to go save us. They were picking up decent chunks on the ground those last couple drives because they had just been pushing them around so much. Like if you can continue to do that, it's low margin for error because again, the Chiefs are averaging, even in this game, their running backs average like 3.338 yards per carry or something. Like they are just barely over the mythical number that says you can just run it 3 straight times for a new set of downs every time, which is a hard way to live when you're not getting explosives. However, if it starts to weigh on teams and when you have the best player in the world playing quarterback, I think you can kind of get by with that a little bit. Like, you get to that 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5 because of 2 shorter runs, you probably feel okay if you're the Chiefs. You think Patrick Mahomes can make things work. Do you have any more on the offensive line?
Should the Chiefs extend Trey Smith?
If you aren't going to figure out your passing game more so than what it is, and I don't mean they didn't try. They obviously tried to bring in a Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice. Like I don't want to say that like they didn't try to go any efforts, but like if your goal is going to be to lean on the run game like it has been this year, and that's not injury dependent, then yes. Like if your goal is to play this way, then yes, you probably should extend Trey Smith because he's arguably your best run blocker out of all 5 guys, and you're probably going to lose Joe Thuney soon. If the goal is to get back into a more passing attack, a little bit more Patrick Mahomes drop back and, do whatever he wants centric offense, then I could buy that it would be better to spend that money elsewhere and not on another interior offensive line.
Okay, well, if they extend Trey Smith, they may not have money to sign a wide receiver, and we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
And that's more of an extra problem anyway. But, hey, I think this team had a game plan with Juju Smith-Schuster involved. And, I mean, they did. Of course they did. And Juju Smith-Schuster.
I think that's the problem right there. It's 2024 and you have a game plan revolving.
I will say, like, I think Juju Smith-Schuster has been obviously a tremendous addition in the context of they needed him, and he's been a performer the last 2 weeks before this game, and he's done a good job, and he had a career high or a team high in his time in Kansas City with 130 yards receiving last week. The downside and the justifiable, the fair downside is the injury history that he's endured. This wasn't the knee that a lot of people talk about. This was the hamstring that he suffered in this last week. That he tried to give a go in the game and wasn't able to do it. And so now you're sitting here and this this offense, you're glad the Chiefs brought in Juju for the time they did, but my goodness, they're back here in the same situation where they've lost basically wide receivers 1, 2, and 4. They have Xavier Worthy. They have Justin Watson and Sky Moore. It's not looking great, Maddie. And I don't know what this team does from here.
So there's a lot to unpack, I think, with wide receiver. And so that's why, I'm trying to figure out where to even start with it. Okay, so I think connecting it to the offensive line is good because we talked about it. The Chiefs had to leave an extra person inside to help Wanya Morris a little bit. And I think that was the correct call. You might have to do that frequently this year because Wanya Morris is fine-ish, but like really good pass rushers can be to the point to where they can completely disrupt your game plan. So you might have to leave in more guys to help. If you are going to lose a full guy or a half a guy for your route concepts, Andy Reid can no longer scheme someone open as consistently. When you have to go from being 5 out in a route to only being 4 or 4.5 or whatever, however you want to word it, it's a lot harder to win that space game over and over again. One of your space players is always just going to be relegated to the flat, and a defense isn't really going to be stressed by a guy getting out there late after the chip. That doesn't mean you can't check it down and pick up those 5 yards. It just means that they're not going to be stressed by that. So it's going to get even harder if you have to do that to win via space. So that puts more pressure on your wide receivers to actually get open themselves, to find the soft spots in the zones that aren't there based on design, but because you see it and you adjust your route, or you beat the person in that zone there, or you beat the man coverage. The issue is the Chiefs don't have anyone that can do that. They just simply don't. And I don't think that Juju Smith-Schuster is the magic fix to that. Juju Smith-Schuster at this point of his career is the epitome of, if there is an open space, I can go find it. And if Andy Reid, stresses the defense in the right way, I will go find that space. Mahomes trusts me to be there. And I think that's how you saw him have a big game versus the Saints. There's no guarantee if he plays in this game that he doesn't have just 2 catches for 12 yards just because of the way the 49ers were playing it. They were making the wide receivers actually win versus just finding the space. So I think the way they have to play, because the offensive line puts more stress on an already struggling and very thin wide receiver group. And then I just think we've seen at this point in time, nobody stepped up in that wide receiver. Like, who are we waiting on to step up out of the wide receivers they currently have? Juju Smith-Schuster's already served his purpose. He had to step in. He had a big game. He helped you win a game. You couldn't have expected much more than that from Juju Smith-Schuster this year. Can't expect more of that again. So, like, who's stepping up to change the outlook of this wide receiver room at this point?
Yeah, and the only option to really change it is Xavier Worthy. And Xavier Worthy, they gave a ton of chances to. They put him, they gave him 8 targets. He led the team in targets. There was some opportunities. They tried to get him involved really early. I think, like I said, 5 of the targets were in the first 20 minutes of that game. And you saw them, try to, again, take a shot down the field to start the second half. Like, they're trying to utilize the skill set of Xavier Worthy as best they can. And, hey, again, like, he's creating space down the field. The connection hasn't been there. They're still trying, which I appreciate. I appreciate that they're still sending the ball. They're sending it, and they're trying to give him some shots down the field. And that's something that was missing at times for this team, right? Last season, they weren't even getting those, taking those chances. They weren't quality chances that they were taking down the field. These have been quality chances that they just haven't hit yet. And that's definitely an area of the field that can get unlocked. But beyond that, like, it's going to be tough to see, Xavier Worthy. I think Matthew, you've done a great job talking about this as we've gone through, the last couple of weeks, and specifically this week, right? I think the play strength shows up. I think the size has showed up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. There's been some moments that, that might hinder, some of those opportunities that this team might need him to take outside of some of those vertical plays where he's just running by some people.
Yeah, we saw the first attempt to make Xavier Worthy the volume pass catcher for this team. And that was probably never the right way to use him this year, right? Like, his goal would be to be your shot play guy. But also, I think the anger from people early in the season was he was doing nothing else. He's not a guy that probably should be your volume receiver. You can't be going to Xavier Worthy in all your high leverage situations. Yeah, you want to give him some shot plays. Yeah, you want to give him some real routes and some gadget stuff. You want to give him a sprinkling of everything, not heaps and heaps of everything, because that's not going to be who he is. And I think at least this year, I want to be very clear. Anything I'm about to say is not like a career-long arc outlook on him. However, I think we see it. If he's your number one wide receiver, not just in terms of like threat, but also the volume that he's going to get, that's kind of scary, because in this game against the 49ers, they were scheming him up good looks to get one-on-one with a guy that was not playing press coverage. They were keeping him off the line of scrimmage. They were not hiding him, but like they were designing him good looks to get good leverage and win with his speed. And he was really struggling to get separation. Like the slot fade, he got his arm, like he just had simple hand contact. He couldn't break off of it and accelerate the ball to get to that slot fade. I'm not saying it was a perfect throw, but he did not look like he was any faster than that defensive back. And that defensive back didn't press him. That defensive back like wasn't doing anything absurd. You should be able to get off of that and go get the ball. There was an option route out of the backfield where, again, the DB just plays catch technique, gets hands on him when he gets to his break, and he can't accelerate out of the break because of that contact. I think the play where he slips on the corner route, that's an interception, same concept. He gets in there, he's trying to lean on the DB and break away, but by the time he breaks away, he's already kind of late, and then he loses his footing because that play strength is just showing up. So, like, I think it's pretty clear this year he won't be your volume guy. That play strength to not even against press coverage, just play strength at the break point. Anytime somebody touches him, not jams him, just touches him, he does seem to really lose his speed and his ability to accelerate away from them. And that's not to say he can't be useful this year. We can talk about the big long play here in a second. We can talk about some stuff that's been left on the field, right? Like I want to be very clear. It doesn't mean he can't be useful. It's just he's not going to be your wide receiver one this year. And I don't see anybody else in this roster that's even vying for that opportunity. Even Juju Smith-Schuster coming back, I don't see anybody else that's really a viable option to be a wide receiver one.
Yeah, and I think a sprinkling doesn't mean that he's not a key factor into this offense. And like,
Correct.
Look, the deep over route that they tried to hit him on third down. They tried to throw a deep over route to him, and pass protection didn't hold up. Which is, again, hey, like they're doing it again.
I loved how they tried to use him.
Oh, they did it.
I love how they tried to use him.
They had a great plan for him, and they're going to continue to have great ways to utilize him and get him open and give him these opportunities. He's just missing some opportunities. There's some opportunities missed, and there's a litany of reasons why he's missed them at this point. It's some of them on him, some of them have been on pass protection, some have been on Pat, and it's a mixture of everyone's sharing a little bit of blame. The deep shot right out of the gate, overthrown by Mahomes. Pass protection keeps him from hitting that deep over. And then, hey, look, they try to, Mahomes trusted him enough to throw him a corner out, and he fell. And he fell down against contact. And like, that's the struggle there, right? You get three different scenarios, and all three of them lead to, some mistakes there that keep those plays from executing. But man, it is hard not to see the vision for him. It's hard not to see, how he can be utilized and how his ability can get weaponized by Andy Reid. Just knowing that, like, if the second half of the season they start hitting some of these things, the narrative is entirely different. Like I say, like last week, if they just hit that deep over last week, the narrative is a little bit different. If they hit the vertical passing game, if they hit that deep shot like this week, the narrative's just different about Xavier Worthy. So like, you're so close. And I think you just, you got to keep integrating it all into this offense. You've got to keep, trying some of these things. This team, even if, and we'll talk about this, you're right, they don't have a ton of, answers with Juju, and if Juju's back and with Xavier Worthy, they got to go get someone, right, Matt? I want
to talk about that deep shot to Worthy real quick, because I think there's been like some discussion on the old X timeline. What was your thoughts on the deep shot to Worthy? Were the guys just off? Do you think some people have thought Worthy stopped running? Like, what are your takes on the vertical pass that was just missed?
I don't think he stopped running. I think he might have tried to adjust up the field a little bit more vertically, so that the angle on the route changed. I think Mahomes threw that ball as literally as far as he can. Like, we've heard the comment, "Hey, I'm going to throw the ball as far as I can." I think he threw it with a little bit more drive than you might want in that play. You might want a little bit more arc on that, and maybe you want that ball maybe a little bit more to one of the other hash. So that would be a couple of my takes.
It was outside the opposite hash of Worthy by a step or two. So it's tricky to me. I think Worthy, and I think I had retweeted it. There's a good view out there. I'm trying to remember exactly who it came from, because it shows all three views, right? It shows shows the throw from the broadcast. It shows the Worthy during the whole route. Then it shows the end zone view from behind Mahomes. It initially came from Ian Harditz, Harditz on Twitter. You can go find it, but it shows all three views. And I think what you see is when Worthy comes out of his break on the little post, like after his rocker step, he looks over and he identifies that the backside safety's chasing the corner route. So he now knows that there's nobody to his right. There's nobody else over there. I think he comes out of that route not flat, but he comes out of that route with the anticipation that he's going to be crossing the field a little bit more because there's no one there. And Mahomes has already thrown it or throwing it, and he throws it directly up the hash. So I do think Worthy has to adjust his angle slightly, not a lot. Like, it's not a lot to excruciatingly slow him down or anything. I do think he has to adjust his angle a little bit. And like, you can sit here and say, maybe with more time, the rookie will say, okay, I know the spot I'm supposed to run to. Let me not deviate until I see the ball. So like, I'm not going to like nitpick one way or the other or place blame based on that. I just do think that some people have said he slows down. I don't think he slows down. I just think he has to adjust his route angle because he looks, you can see him look, he sees that the other safety's not there. He's chasing a corner. He says, I now have this whole quarter of the field as I drop stuff on my keyboard. I now have this whole quarter of the field to go look and see everything. So I think that's what happened. Yeah, I'm with you. Mahomes, a little too flat on that ball. You got to give him space to run underneath it. He used to do that a lot with Hill, right? He used to give like a little bit more of a rainbow shot to Hill and let Hill go up and get it if it was underthrown. We haven't seen Worthy have the ability to go up and get the ball through contact yet. I think like maybe that's playing in the back of his mind. I was just happy that he overthrew him and didn't underthrow him. He's underthrown every other vertical shot to this point. Like every other vertical shot Worthy's had to slow down or work back to. I was just kind of happy that this one got overthrown because now Worthy knows, hey, I have to run 110% every time. Pat knows I do have the arm to get it there if I throw it on time and he can still be open. So like, I kind of like that it was overthrown.
Anyways, back to trading for a wide receiver.
Sure, I guess.
Like I mean, I know we keep hitting on it, but like I mean, like, and I know there's a couple games here that like seem pretty winnable, even without help right now. It's like maybe you can make your way all the way to the trade deadline. Like, do you here? Okay, so here's the let's look at the schedule real quick, right? Like looking at the schedule here before
they play one more game before the trade deadline, right? Or is it two?
I think they've got
two.
I think they've got two more games before the trade deadline, and so you're talking. I mean, you've got the Raiders coming up. And like I think this team can go out and beat the Raiders. Then you've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home on Monday Night Football. And then I think the NFL trade deadline is after that. So do you just kind of just wait?
What's the point on waiting though? Right? Like I understand.
Sorry, there is one more. There is one more. Sorry, my apologies. There is two more games. There's two more games before that.
Because it's the 5th, right?
Yes. Yes, yeah. You're right. So it's two more games before the NFL trade line.
What's the point specifically of waiting a couple games? Yes, you can win them, but like what is the point of trying to get a new wide receiver later in the year at this point, knowing that Rashee Rice ain't coming back? If Hollywood Brown comes back, it's going to be for the final game or two of the playoffs. Like those things aren't changing. What are you hoping that changes in those two games, right? So like, I don't think there's any reason to wait till the deadline other than the fact that deadlines make deals. And so maybe the teams you're trying to deal with are trying to hold on as long as they can. But I just watched the Panthers get absolutely de-pantsed by a backup quarterback. There's nothing they're waiting for. That team is cooked. So like, I don't know.
Oh, well, but the Panthers could be waiting for a market to materialize more. And like, what I'm asking is not specifically, do the Chiefs try to see if they can figure things out with this group before they make a move? That's not my question. My question is, do you think the Chiefs wait things out until the trade deadline, knowing that a market could materialize even more, knowing that teams might be more apt to trade some of their players? Because you can say that all you want, but
sure,
it takes two teams. It takes two teams if you want to. If you want two teams to
tango. You're looking for the word tango
to make a deal. And so, like, I don't know if I don't know for sure if some teams are ready right now to make a move. I know we know that the Cleveland Browns were. But that doesn't mean that the Carolina Panthers are. I think teams are calling in on the Carolina Panthers. I think the New York Giants are probably not looking to move yet. But they don't believe that, and they probably aren't because Brian Daboll can't afford to be out right now, and Joe Shane
quarterback
probably
got benched.
I'm just telling you, I'm not sure that these teams are out.
Is the question, do I think the Chiefs are waiting till the deadline, or do I think that the other teams to make a deal are waiting till the deadline? Which question are you asking?
I'm asking, do you think that the Chiefs do you think the Chiefs hold out too? Do you think that they just wait to
No.
see what the market looks like?
I don't think so. I think the Chiefs are going to be trying to. I'm torn on this because, like, part of me thinks that Andy Reid might believe that Juju Smith-Schuster coming back in week 10 and Hollywood Brown coming back in week 15 is going to be just enough to be okay. Part of me thinks that that is a logical thing that this team and Andy Reid thinks, and that they might just be okay rolling with what it is. However, I'm logically looking that this team has made multiple in-season trades when they felt like they were weak at positions. The wide receiver position this year is the weakest any position group has ever been for them. And like, we can argue talent for talent. There's been no other year where their best player to position, and then their second best player at that same position, and then their fourth best player on that position, who, by the way, was signed like 3 days before the season started, all got hurt in the same year. There has never been a time where the Chiefs have lost more from August to the trade deadline at one position that was already maybe a little bit weaker. So I think they will make a move. How big of a move it is, I don't know. It might just be stealing someone off a practice squad. There will be a move made. I don't think they are purposely trying to wait until the deadline for a market or to see what happens to see if it works out. I think they are going to try to get one done sooner rather than later, especially the fact that they already know that Juju Smith-Schuster's out for next week. They haven't given a timeline for his return, but that's a quick, hey, he's out 6 days from now. That happened pretty fast. So that's got to be a semi-significant injury for that to already come out.
Yeah, and I mean yet another injury here. I mean, it's getting tough to just think that they're going to be able to roll with what they got. And
Right,
like,
I got a list of players. Are you ready for a list of players?
Let's get the list going. Let's hear it.
This is from Nate Taylor on The Athletic. Shout out, Nate. Deontay Johnson, yay or nay?
Yay.
Yeah, that's the obvious one, right? I think we're all hoping for it. I would be, the way things have gone this year in the wide receiver trade market, I would almost be surprised if he's not traded. In years past, guys don't get traded even if it looks like they should. This year, it seems like teams are willing to make some moves. So I'm not saying to the Chiefs. It seems like he's probably going to get moved. He seems to be getting more and more frustrated with what's going on there, based on like his post-game presser. Darius Slayton is the next guy he mentions. Yay, nay?
Yay.
Ooh.
Yay.
Okay. That's not very enthusiastic.
It's a yay. You know, I mean, that's a 5th round pick kind of move to me. If you
okay,
know,
yeah, no, that's
round.
fine. I think Darius Slayton's a good football player. I think he's a better wide receiver than his name value carries. I just think that I don't know if he solves the issue of, hey, we have to leave in Noah Gray or Travis Kelce to help block. Is Darius Slayton going to beat that man coverage reliably on time? I don't know if that's his game, but I also think that he would clearly be the number 1 receiver on this team, which is so rough. All right. Next, DeAndre Hopkins from the Titans.
Yay. I think cost value.
They'd have to move some money, I think, but
but again, like if you are waiting, here's the thing: if you're waiting 2 more weeks, that's a little bit less money off the books. Again, I think they're pushing this thing to the deadline. They're going to try to run these 2 weeks out.
Yeah, he even then at the deadline, I think you have to move some money for Hopkins. He's the first guy that we've mentioned. I think you would have to move some money, not a lot. It's very doable. Just you would have to move some. Demarcus Robinson from the Rams.
I mean, like, they're all yays, but they're all like on a yay scale. It's like, yeah, I get it. I'm not like,
does
I don't know how much
Demarcus Robinson fix anything?
I don't know if he fixes anything.
Is he better than Justin Watson?
Probably, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I do think. I mean, Demarcus Robinson's put together a nice little NFL career. Like,
yeah, DeMarcus, but I think we got to remember Demarcus Robinson with the Chiefs was just running double moves, and Pat was hitting him deep, which is cool. That would be useful, but like, I don't know if he fixes the issue of it's 3rd and 6. Travis Kelce can no longer get open. Who are we going to go for?
Yeah, and you got to make sure to throw the ball 9 yards so he doesn't run 3 yards back.
Right. All right. Adam Thielen. This is a weird one because Nate had also said earlier that he thought they'd be looking for somebody under 30, but like, Adam Thielen, how would you feel if, they traded for him? I didn't know his contract or anything, so like I just kind of whipped this one out of nowhere.
Fine. Yeah.
He's better than Demarcus Robinson, so like
he's better than Demarcus Robinson. Yeah. I think he's above Demarcus Robinson, and like he's done, like he's got 8 catches.
What's the gap between him and DeAndre Hopkins for you? Because you were real quick with Hopkins. What's the gap between Thielen and DeAndre Hopkins?
I think it's still pretty. It's a decent size one.
He's affordable.
It's a decent size one. Yeah. Yeah. Thielen's a little bit more affordable. And Thielen might be, like, the thing with Thielen is he also might be he might still have a little bit left that we just don't know because he's in Carolina. Like he might
He
have a
was
little
good
bit more than
last
you
year for
think.
them. And even like this year, I think he's dinged up a little bit, but he's been fine for them.
8 catches,
He's doable.
109 yards, and all of those have been in the 3 games in September. He's been hurt a little bit lately. So, I mean, he was looking okay, in those limited games.
Yeah. I saw somebody had mentioned that Deontay Johnson has a cap at $10 million. Yeah, he might, but the Chiefs would only be on the hooks for his base salary, and that's going to be like prorated week by week. So come trade deadline time, they, I think, would just have barely enough to squeeze him in. If not, they have to barely move any money. So like he's very affordable if they want to make it work, and that might be a reason it waits till the deadline. I don't know the exact week that he becomes completely compliable under their cap. Tutu Atwell. That's an interesting one.
No.
Okay, of all the people to get a hard no out of Tutu Atwell is interesting. I don't know what's wrong.
It's not that he's a bad player, and like he's actually like he's one of the more productive players I think we've talked about, but like what are we doing with him? How are we using him and Xavier Worthy on the same team at the same time? Like what are we doing and McColl, like what are we doing here? And does like
they rock, paper, scissors to see who gets the jet sweep?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't get that one as much. I don't think he does anything those guys can't do. He's maybe a little more polished than Worthy because he's been in the NFL for a couple years, but like you still can't send him over the middle. You're still sending him on a lot of vertical routes that can't take on contact. So I don't know if I fully get that one.
He's very polished.
And he loves these guys.
Yeah, he's very polished on the vertical stem. So what are we doing? Are we just sending McColl, Xavier Worthy, and Tutu Atwell? Oh, maybe I can be talked into that one. Maybe we're just running three verts
with the weakest but fastest players imaginable.
We're just running by everyone, and
for
then
a quarterback who historically has one of the worst deep balls.
And then Juju and Travis Kelce running underneath it wide open.
The last name mentioned is going to be Christian Kirk. Now, Christian Kirk is unfortunate because he would require the most money to be moved around.
And some of the most compensation from a draft perspective too, I would think.
Yeah, his base salary this year is 14.5 prorated. I mean, like he would be pretty expensive. Now he's under contract next year for 15.5, which isn't even great. It's not like you'd be getting him for a deal next year either. That's probably just like right what he is worth in his best case. So the money for Christian Kirk would be entirely based around the fact that the Jacks would have to eat essentially all of it to make it work, and then maybe. I don't know. The money there gets real tight, real dicey. You would have to extend Jawan Taylor probably is where you have the most money you could move around. And then you could trade for him and afford him. Like he's the most pricey to pull to make work.
I tell you what though, Rashee Rice replacement. Like he does a lot for you there.
Move.
He does a lot for you there, man. He'd be a good fit like that. That's a big needle mover if you ask me. So I like that one a lot, but we'll see what this Chiefs team does. Oh, you got one more?
I got one more. Do the Chiefs make a move this week before they play the Raiders?
No.
At wide receiver. Okay.
Nope. I think they play the Raiders. I think they play the Bucks, and then they make a move. And if they feel any pressure to get a move done, they will, as far as like the market changing on them a little bit more. But I think they kind of feel good where they're sitting, and not that they feel good about where they're sitting from a like what they have perspective, but more just like I think they feel like they can wait these 2 weeks out and then go from there. I think that's what they do. It saves them some money.
I think it happens next week. I think next Tuesday is the day that the Chiefs make it. The next Tuesday. I don't think it'll be the deadline. I think it's next Tuesday. They're going to give it one more game. And like, it doesn't work anymore because Juju's like hurt and missing the game, obviously. My thought was entirely the Chiefs are going to give it a couple weeks to see if Andy Reid's revamped bye-week game plan can work or won't work. And then when they figure that out, they'll make their move. Without Juju, it's kind of hard to say yay or nay if they got that, but I think that might be what expedites the move as well. As without Juju, like if he misses significant time, like what are you really working with? Like they're going to have to elevate someone off the practice squad. I mean, they're going to have to elevate somebody off the practice squad to play this game. And like, I know that Andy Reid said he likes those guys, and we as fans like Justin Ross and Nico Armigio, there's a reason that those guys haven't made this roster or been picked up by anybody else, right? Like there's a reason they haven't made it yet. And we watch Sky Moore run 33 routes. Like there's a reason. that has happened or play 33 snaps. So I think they might have to make a move. So maybe they squeeze out one more game before, but like, I think next Tuesday is my prediction of some kind of move being made.
Yeah, I think they wait this week out unless something just kind of changes with, hey, look, more teams are in DeAndre Hopkins now, or, I think the Chiefs, I'm sure the Chiefs are doing some work now, but I just don't know if they're ready to make a move quite yet. And like, they can save a little bit of money if they wait another week or two. So sitting 6-0, they got a 2-game lead on everybody in the AFC. I could see them being a little bit more patient here. That is going to do it for this episode of the KC Laboratory. Thank you so much for listening, so much for watching. We appreciate you. We love you. We'll catch you later.